Hey, all my nerd geeks and dorks, and welcome to Radcast, the podcast where your nerd card is accepted. Tonight it's just me and Adam. We seriously just got back in the door from Quakecon there in Dallas. So,
yeah, straight from the con, right to the door, right to the computer. pretty much, yeah, just to be able to bring this to you guys as soon as we possibly could. And what we are bringing is the complete panel for the 20 years of id Software.
Hosted by Morgan Webb.
It's hosted by Morgan Webb. It features John Carmack, Tim Willits, Todd Hollenshead, and Kevin Cloud. Basically, these guys are kind of like the founding members of id Software. I actually really enjoyed the panel.
I did too, man. It was really informative. I felt bad because I didn't have any questions to ask. But it was...
Well, they didn't really... They said a panel, and I didn't realize that they were going to be doing Q&A. Some panels you get Q&A, some panels you don't.
Yeah. And
some of them it's just them talking, and so I didn't realize that they were doing a Q&A with this one. But I'm glad that they did, and it was about an hour long.
Exactly.
It's one of those things like we're not going to tell you about it because we're about to play it for you.
You're about to hear the whole thing in general, so it's kind of hard to really, I guess, we're not going to talk about it because you're about to get all the information that we just got, and it'd be over redundant for us to sit here and tell you, well, they talked about this and this and this and blah 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 blah. But yeah, man, awesome. We hope you guys enjoy it because we enjoyed the panel myself. So
yeah, we enjoyed the panel. We hope you guys enjoy it, and hopefully, we're going to be one of the first ones to have this out. I think I was the only one recording the panel. So, kind of cool. So, if you guys are Radcast fans, you're getting this first hot off the presses.
Radcast exclusive, QuakeCon 2011.
I am incredibly honored to be moderating the 20 years of id panel. My name is Morgan Webb, and I'm going to bring out some guys. Thank you. I'm going to bring out some guys who I know that you're really here to see, and they need no introductions. So come on out, guys. This is the best panel of the show, for real. All right, and because I know that you guys are definitely not here to hear me talk, I would like to get a little bit of information from each of you about how you started, where you started, and what the culture of id was like over the course of its life, and how it's reflected in the culture and the games that you make today.
Well, I started back at id in 1996, but I'm kind of, well, Tim and I are sort of similar in this regard, is that I was a fan of the company before I was CEO there, and Wolfenstein 3D is the game that introduced me to gaming and in PC gaming, and of course to id, and I didn't know when I was playing the game that I was ultimately going to go there to be CEO, but I was addicted to the game from the start. When I played it, I would literally play it until I was sick, and so going to work for that company that made that game for me was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, and literally today it's still awesome. And
what, can you point to sort of a certain design element of the game that really attracted you? Like, what was it about that game that sucked you in so much?
Turkey dinners.
And what was the culture like there when you first started?
Well, I think I was, there were 12 guys when I started, and Miss Donna, so it was like 14 people, and I think my first day, so I had been working as a business advisor to the company, working for Arthur Anderson, and these guys had only seen me in like a suit and tie ever, and so when I showed up in
Did you have long hair then?
No, I didn't have long hair then. So it went through a painful growing process over the first couple of years, actually. But no, they only have long hair at Arthur Anderson.
You're not, I'm sure. And so how did you make the jump?
Well, I mean, I had gotten to know the business of the company over a couple of years of working with the guys, and had gotten to know John and Kevin and Tim and really all the guys at the company because I was doing all their tax returns at the time. So I knew all the guys.
All of the details.
That's right, and I knew the business too because we'd had a few projects we had worked on, and so I kind of stepped in, and I guess the first thing was sort of figure out what was going on with Quake Shareware and why I put it at 7-Eleven. Because that wasn't nearly as great as it sounded on paper, but after that, I think I hit the ground running pretty well, and we were in the middle, or we just started Quake 2 development.
Yeah, but for a while there, we had the outrage of the week, as Todd would tell us how screwed up our business practices were.
Was he right?
Yes, he was right.
And when did you start?
I started in '95, and when I knew that I wanted to make video games is actually when I played Doom 1. I never actually played Wolfenstein originally. And I got a new computer. I was in college, downloaded the shareware version of Doom 1. I was running around that first room, and I thought that was the entire demo. And I thought this game is pretty cool. And then somehow, because that doorway at the end of the hallway doesn't really look like a doorway. So I finally got to the end of the hallway, and that door opened for me, and it was, and I know this sounds silly, and I've told this story before, and people don't believe it, but when that door opened, and I saw the rest of the game, and I saw the world in front of me, that was the moment that my life changed. And I knew that I wanted to make video games. And I would drive to college in the morning, and this is true, I would daydream about working at id Software. And so when I had the opportunity to make Doom levels and Doom 2 levels, and then eventually get hired from them. I was the original mod community hire, and it was a dream come true then, and even now, like late at night, if I'm walking through the offices at work, I said to myself, I'm working at id. This is awesome. And it hasn't changed much for me.
Is that still a viable way for people to get hired at id? Because I know I'm thinking what you guys are thinking right now.
Yes, I mean it's the mod community is not as much as it used to be, but some of the best people we have came from the mod community. Matt Hooper, Robert Duffy. I mean, the list goes on. And I tell people when they ask how to get into the industry, find a game you like, find an engine that you like, and make a mod, and then get that out to as many people as possible, because it really is the best way to get your foot in the door.
And how many people were there when you started?
Probably like 10 or so. Yeah, about that, about 11, yeah.
And we should ask, how many people are working there today?
Over 200.
Yes.
Does it still have that small community feel? I'm guessing you can't do that with that many people.
Well, it's I like to call it like the spirit of id. And if your company is 40,000 people or your company is 10 people, the spirit of the people at the top, that is what drives the spirit of the whole organization. And I love that picture.
And we definitely talk about some of these pictures as they go by.
But yes, we are bigger, but we try to give everyone a chance to have input and have creative freedom, and our philosophy is hire the best people we can, give them the tools to succeed, and make awesome games.
And let's hear a little bit about the way you started and your history with id.
I started back in 1992. That's it. Maybe somewhere like February.
A date? No.
Yep. February, March, somewhere.
February, March.
But yeah, I worked with the guys over at Softdisk, which is a company in Shreveport. We were all working together at, and some of the guys, John and Tom and Romero, those guys had broken off to do their own thing, and and they were still working on submitting some games back to soft disk, and I actually saw Wolfenstein, probably it was a few months in, and we all at soft disk sort of sat around and looked at it, and some of the guys go, wow, we could do something like that. And I was like, brother, go ahead and do it, man. Let's do something like that, because it was just so awesome. And I probably spent an hour or so just looking at that point, I don't think there was even characters in the room. There was like some vases and some brown bushes and stuff like that. And
the makings of every great game.
it was just something basic, but it was just moving through this 3D world. And lots of game companies were trying to do that, but nobody was pulling it off as fluidly as what John had been able to do. And so just moving back and forth and seeing everything move like it was a real solid world, I said, I've got to be there. And the guys were actually looking for an artist, and thank God, one of my friends who they were asking to be an artist to work with him, he said he couldn't relocate. So I said, man, sign me up. So we just it started there.
That might be an example of a bad career decision. I can't relocate to work for id.
At the time it was just 4 or 5 guys.
1992.
Right? So it really, if you were going to go look at what id was, this is a handful of guys in an apartment. The guys were located up in Wisconsin. I took the 2-day trek to go there to meet up with them. I probably arrived at like 10:30 or 11. All these guys had worked till like 3 in the morning. And so they weren't even up yet. I waked John up. He's in his boxers. Sorry, John. And, and I was like, well, I'm here. And he's like, oh, what time it is? I was like, it's 11. So they called all the crew in and sort of started from there. But, it was one of those things, at least from my perspective. I mean, I just wanted to make games. So I had no idea if it was going to last past Wolfenstein or what. But, it's just sort of to be a part of that crew, and that's how
but the other part of your coming on is a story worth telling, where at that point we were just through the winter in Wisconsin, and we're like, oh, this was awful. Screw this. We're not staying here through another year. And we were just kind of tossing around debating, well, where do we want to go? We want to go someplace warm. Do we want to locate to a Caribbean island? But Adrian did swim and was afraid of flying over large bodies of water. So we're like, okay, not flying to an island. How about Texas? And at that time, Apogee was down here. We're like, okay, this sounds pretty good. Then someone said, there's no state income tax in Texas. We're like, oh, that sounds good too. And so we decided just that one night, okay, we're all moving to Texas. So Kevin was up here sort of for applying for the job on there, and he had found an apartment. We left a message on his answering machine saying, don't sign the lease, call us in the morning. And of course, that was probably not the most pleasant thing to hear from his wife.
No, it scared the hell out of me. I'd already just quit my job, and I thought, Jesus Christ, I'm fired before I even start.
We were recently married at the time too, right? So there was some spousal.
Yeah, I mean, for one thing, none of these guys were married, so the idea of having a meeting to decide to move to another state at 3 a.m. was something that just seemed like a normal thing to do. For me, it wasn't quite that way.
I think Romero's wording was, "We are the wind."
That was it.
All right, The Wind. Was this your apartment that everything was started in?
Yeah. So, the company got started in Shreveport, where a few of us had a lake house. It was